Welcome to Turtle Talk. This is Morgan's story and the family's journey. I'm Craig, and
I'm Michelle. Welcome.
we're going to answer some questions we've had.
We've had lots of questions on emails, on our YouTube channel, on phone calls, text messages. We love it.
Yes.
Keep them coming. We're going to try and answer all these questions for you guys. If you have more, keep them coming.
We'll do this again
Yes.
as much as possible. We love it. 'Cause I can talk forever, but I'm letting Michelle do it. So,
Really. Thank you.
okay. First one tonight. When you left for the hospital, what happened on the drive to the hospital?
So when the police had come to tell us that Morgan had been in the accident, and we had requested that she's I'm having trouble.
We can start over, or I can cut that out. Cut it out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when the police had come here, we had requested one of the two specific trauma hospitals for her to go to. On our drive down to Sioux Falls, we quickly called my parents and said, "There's been an accident. We need you. Please come to the hospital. Here's where we're going." Halfway down, the sheriff's office called us and said, "Oh, the highway patrol has rerouted your daughter to the other trauma hospital." So we argued about that point a little bit and said, no, all her doctors, everything were at the other one. And they said, nope, she's going there. End of discussion. So we didn't even get a choice now as to where we wanted her to go. So that was a mending piece of it right there. So that was one of the things that had happened on the way down there. And I had called my parents so we could have someone there because we're in uncharted territory.
Right.
You know, first thing you do is call your parents. No matter what your age is, you call your parents.
Yeah. When you were in the ER waiting room and you're making calls, you had your parents call your siblings.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents called my siblings. Tom was trying to call his family. It was just, it was like I don't even know how to describe this, but it was surreal. It was like, this can't be happening. I'm in a dream. When am I going to wake up? And the thing I remember is my brother had called and I had, or maybe I called him. I don't remember. But what I do remember is I had gone to the bathroom and to throw up. I mean, let's be honest. This was so traumatic. My stomach is in knots. I'm puking. And then I'm talking to my brother and I'm laying on the bathroom floor in the ER, crying and telling my brother, I don't know what to do. Someone needs to go to my kids. Someone needs to tell my children, please, will you be that person? Because as I said before, he's like the rock of Gibraltar. He just is always unwavering, it seems like, in every crisis. So, but that was quite a pivotal moment to be laying there.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back now and think, thank goodness nobody could see me because I was a mess. I was a mess. Tom was a mess. My parents were trying to keep it together for us, but let's be honest, this is their grandchild, and you know, this is not a situation anyone wanted to be in.
Right. Tom mentioned that you saw her quick before the ICU.
You know, I honestly don't remember that. I really don't, but I know, I don't know. There was just
Shock.
Yeah. You know, we were in shock. Somewhere in there was a chaplain or a priest or somebody that came and talked to us. it's like a flash in time is what you get. I mean, memory fades after time. Some of it feels like it just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Some of it I remember a little differently than Tom does, but that doesn't mean it all didn't happen, and so, yeah, I missed that one. I honestly still to this day don't remember that happening.
Yeah. It's got to be just an absolute whirlwind trying to remember
Yeah,
everything.
we tried to take notes. We tried to keep up, on on my computer. I just kept taking notes and trying to remember different things, you know, but in the first 48 hours, that was like the furthest thing from our mind.
Right. I don't know if it's on here. How late into the process or how many days after it happened did you start the CaringBridge to help remember?
I think it was within a couple days. Someone had said, you need to start this so people know what's going on. I think it was maybe one of my family members who had suggested it, just because they were fielding so many calls for us, which was amazing. And there was a whole flurry of people at the hospital. I remember once we moved from the ER up to the ICU, it was like, it felt like within an hour, there must have been 50 people there of family and stuff. My aunt came down from Minneapolis like immediately as soon as she found out. She was there, and there were so many people. I can't even remember who was all there. There was just I just remember walking into this big waiting room, and it was all our family and friends, and there was a lot of people there. You know,
Well, whirlwind.
whirlwind, yes.
So, did the trauma hospital help your family at all with the process, with the processing?
At first, no. They're really, I mean, here you are. Here, oh, by the way, at some point, and I think it was a week into it or something, oh, here's your case manager. But the case manager didn't explain a lot of things as far as transfers to other facilities, things like that. Just here, you have to pick something. Well, we don't know anything about anything. Why are we doing this? Why can't she just stay here? Like, this is close to home. Our kids are here. Why do we have to go out of state to another place? At one point, and I think this was maybe after we got to the step down unit, they did bring in a counselor to help us help her siblings, because we didn't have the answers. Like, how do you even answer any of these questions for the siblings, And so I was thankful that they had that person, and we went into this big room, and everybody got to go around the room, and the kids got to express their anger and their frustration, and why isn't my sister better, and why aren't these things happening, and will she ever?
I suppose there were a lot of those.
There was a lot of those questions, and a lot of questions we couldn't answer. That was the problem. We couldn't answer them.
That's heartbreaking. The next question was, how old were the other kids, and how did you help them process?
So her older brother, I don't even, he was in his like late 20s. Exact ages, I know the triplets were 12. The brother right below her, he was 16. He was going into his senior year. And as far as helping them process, it's kind of funny because boys are definitely different than girls. And, you tell boys to shake it off, and tough boys don't cry. But, I encouraged my boys to cry. It's okay to let it out. It's okay. Crying does not make you less of a man. less of anything, and it's okay. So we reassured them that it's okay to let these emotions out, because if you don't, they're going to eat you up.
Yeah.
And all I could do was just hug them. I just kept hugging them and telling them I loved them, and that Dad and I were going to do everything we could to fix it,
Yeah.
knowing full well there was no way in hell we could fix anything. This was the hand we were dealt.
And you got to give the young ones some reassurance. Yeah,
Exactly.
have to.
Because we were striving for people to tell us and give us hope. And if we didn't do that for our children, we knew how it felt to be hopeless, and we didn't want them to feel hopeless on anything. So we just kept trying to keep things on the positive for them, make it easier. Not that any of this was easy. You know, I have a lot of regrets. I did the best I could. Tom and I did the best we could in the situation we were in. And being this far out now and looking back, the woulda, shoulda, coulda.
That'll eat you alive.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Because there's days when I still have regret, like, why didn't I do this for my children? Why didn't I, why?
Right. You do the best you can with the information you got.
Right. And all we could do was just make sure they knew that they were loved, and no matter what was going on, that we were going to do this as a family.
So next question.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a spoiler alert if you're not caught up. What was the response from the staff over Bernie Morgan with the cooling blanket? How did they handle it?
I was livid. Tom was angry, but Tom he's like pretty stoic about a lot of stuff. And of course, I'm a little more fly off the handle kind of person. And I'm like, what the hell? And the nurses, there were 2 nurses there, and one of them was just kind of chuckling about it, like, oh, guess we forgot the water in it. And, the other one's like, well, I didn't even know it took water. And it's like, how can you not know how every piece of equipment in a patient's room operates? If you're using a piece of equipment, you sure as heck better know how to use it and how it operates. And it was kind of lighthearted joking almost about it, and I lost it. We ended up getting the director of nursing or something involved, whatever her title was. Maybe it was just for that floor, I don't even know. But she was higher up than them, and I'm like, this will never, ever happen again. Like, someone needs training. The hospital needs to do better.
Yeah.
How could this even happen? And then, to top it off, they acted like I was crazy when all these red spots, because it took a couple days for the burns to show up, right? And in the meantime, they're giving her Benadryl. They're putting anti-itch cream on it, on burns. Anti-itch cream.
They should know better.
Yeah, definitely should know better. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So there's a few other care issues that Morgan went through. Do you remember, do you know the list? Stiff boots or hand splints?
Oh.
What would those have been used for?
So, and I didn't know this, but they put some soft, foamy little boots on her feet in hopes that, to keep the circulation and stuff going. But when those weren't on, she should have had hard boots on to stop the foot drop.
And foot drop is?
So instead of your feet being, at a 90-degree angle, they start dropping down And then your feet, instead of looking like this, now look like this. Because the muscle and tendon structure is compromised because of the brain injury or, a coma or whatever. And then the hands started to curl.
So they curl.
They curled.
Yeah.
So by the time we left the trauma hospital, she had curled up like this with her arms and her hands. And you could move them, but it took an awful lot to get them, the arms at least uncurled. The hands stayed like this for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the foot drop was super bad. And it progressively got worse as time went on and as we moved to the next facility, which that of course is another story. But so by not putting splints on her hands and hard boots on her feet, these problems arose. My aunt came down, and I remember that she went out to the nurses' station and had the nurses come in and say, "Why isn't this being done?" And they all just kind of like, But at that point, the damage had already started,
Right.
and I just, and these are things you don't know unless you're a unless you work in these situations, you would have no idea. We had no idea that how important it was for these things. And we found these out later on that.
I would just say you'd think OT would know if they had shown up at all.
Yeah.
They would know. And you answered number 2. So if the foot was not propped on a pillow.
Oh, so they had to, when they did the leg fixing, they noticed that there was something, her ankle was dislocated. So, yeah. So they fixed that, and then they put her in a cast boot, which was great because it prevented the foot drop. However, there wasn't a lot of cushioning in the casting, and the foot wasn't propped up on a pillow to keep the heel from rubbing in the casting. So ultimately, when the cast comes off, there's like a 50-cent piece pressure ulcer on her heel. And those things do not heal quickly.
No.
And so that skin area is very tender, very prone to ripping open. It was, so it was just kind of this series of, wow, I wish I had known then what I know now.
It would have saved.
To prevent a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Bite block.
Oh, the bite block story. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the
Settle
bite
in,
block story.
children.
So, when Morgan was intubated and they decided to do the trach,
Yep.
right? So they did the trach and they pulled the tube out of her throat, right? Because now it's here. They put a little bite block in her mouth, right? And they get that out, and because they didn't want her grinding her teeth right away, so they put this bite block in. And they said it could stay for a few days until, she kind of got used to the new trach and no intubation in there. That little stinker.
Morgan.
Yeah. Morgan
Yeah.
being a stinker.
Yeah.
Even though she's, pretty much sedated or in a coma or whatever they were calling it at the time, they kept saying she was in this open-eyed coma. And really, brain function was pretty limited. But she would sleep and her mouth would droop open and this bite block would just kind of dangle there on her lips. But if you'd touch it, she'd quickly chomp down on it and you couldn't have it. So now the nurses are like, okay, we got to get rid of the bite block. It's time. And then we're like, you know what? Just let us do it. Leave it alone. If it takes another week, who cares? Right?
Right. It's not hurting anything.
It's not hurting anything. it's like got this little bite or little block in it, and it's got a curve thing, so it's not like she can swallow it or choke on it because it's, you know. And so we're like, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. And because it was kind of like, to Tom and I, it was like maybe a comfort thing for her, but it was also our way of knowing that I'm messing with you.
Right.
Which was Morgan. She was always jokey and messing with people and stuff, you know, in funny little ways. So we're like, Morgan's in there. We know she's there. Leave that bite block alone. We don't care if it stays there for a month, right? It's not hurting anything. It's not hurting her teeth. Just leave it alone. So we're gone for something. It might have even been the care planning or something, or wherever. But we were out of the room for a little while, and a nurse came in and just ripped it out of her mouth. So we come back, and there's a little blood on her mouth and stuff, because when they had ripped it, it, you know, kind of cut the inside of her mouth a little bit and stuff. But we're like, who did this? Why? Why would you do this when we've been very adamant about, leave it alone.
Yeah.
We'll get it out. You know, but right now this was like a communication tool from Morgan to us, you know, because we'd sit there and we'd talk to her and say, okay, can we have the bite block? Let us have it. And she'd chomp on it. You know, she wasn't smiling or anything like that. She couldn't, you know,
Right.
but that was her way of, no, I'm here, you know.
It's the interaction.
It was the interaction. So we were pretty disheartened when someone had taken it out when we weren't there, when we said, we'll take care of it. You know, it could have been over the course of a few days or a week. I don't, honestly, time was kind of irrelevant, but someone had messaged me and said, you didn't tell the bite block story, because it was pretty cute that here's Morgan and we're trying to get the bite block out and she continues to bite on it, you know?
Right.
Or when she's sleeping, it's just dangling there, her mouth's wide open, and it's just dangling there. But the minute you got close enough to touch it, it was like her sixth sense went off, and she just chomped right back down on it. Yeah, so that's the bite block story.
She's funny. It's like arm wrestling with Tom.
Yes.
Just, yep.
Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys, so keep the comments and the questions coming for us.
Yes. Love the questions. Please subscribe. Go to www.givemorgan.org or visit me at my real estate website, realtorcraigbertrand.com. And we always want your questions, comments, like, and share wherever you listen or watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.